And we should be, yep, we're live. Hey guys, happy Friday night, and welcome to the first and hopefully many lessons on Iambic Pentameter. Tonight we're going to just be looking at the basics, and it's going to be on understanding stress, because stress is one of the most important features of Iambic Pentameter. This is how this lesson is going to go tonight. We're going to discuss what is Iambic Pentameter. We're going to then discuss how stress is a relative factor, not an absolute factor in words and syllables. And the last thing we are going to discuss is how this affects Iambic Pentameter. I'm going to show you some examples, and hopefully by the end of this lesson, you will understand how stress actually works in a word. So let's just start off with the basics. What is Iambic Pentameter? Iambic Pentameter is a poetic meter, an abstract pattern you are trying to perform speech rhythm to. In other words, you are strategically placing certain words and syllables at key positions in a line in order to create a rhythm. So let me just show you what the abstract pattern is. I'm sure you've all seen this if you've heard of Iambic Pentameter, but it's the da-dum, 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 da-dum. 5 da-dums, 5 iambs, Iambic Pentameter. So that is, I'll highlight it right now, this right here is the abstract pattern we are talking about, that we are trying to conform our speech rhythms to. Just so you know, Iambic Pentameter is the most common poetic meter in English, and that is simply because English uses a lot of mono and disyllable words. So we also use articles and conjunctions, which really helps create the iambic rhythm. It just naturally occurs in English. So I want to, now that we've discussed what the pattern is, I want to show you 3 examples of this being used in actual lines. One's a classical example, one is from a modern poem, and the last is from a contemporary poem. So this first example is from John Milton's Paradise Lost, and it goes, "Now shaves with level wing, the deep then soars." You can see the da-dum, the dum, the dum, the dum, the dum beat within the line. I've highlighted the syllable and word so you can see it. The next example is from Robert Frost's The Death of a Hired Man. She took the market things from Warren's arms. So if we really hear the emphasis on this, you'll hear she took the market things from Warren's arms. Again, you can see the da-dum, 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 da-dum beat playing through the line. The last example is from a contemporary poem. It's from Why I Can't Swim by Alison Josephs, and is, "If waves could wash away my sins in life." So, if waves could wash away my sins in life. Again, we have the da-dum, 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 da-dum beat that is occurring within the line. So this is what I mean by writing a line, writing in English to a certain rhythmic pattern. This is examples of it. So right here, believe it or not, and this is why I wanted to start with this particular lesson. Right here is usually where people stop learning about Iambic Pentameter. I'm not even kidding you, and I'm going to show you some examples of where this becomes an issue. This is all they think there is to it, and that's as far from the truth. So I want to now discuss, now that we have an idea of what Iambic Pentameter is, I want to discuss what stress is, what it actually, and how it works. So The biggest mistake people make when learning iambic pentameter is people treat stress as an absolute feature of a word or syllable instead of a relative factor. In other words, they treat words and syllables as either if they're stressed or unstressed, and this is not correct. It isn't that a word or syllable is stressed or unstressed. All words have stress. It's just that some words and syllables have more stress than other words and syllables. And this is where people get into problems. So usually, I might misquote this, but I think it was Noam Chomsky. If you've been watching the news, he's actually on, I think, MSNBC. For American news, he's been on a few things. But he actually studied linguistics, and he came up with a 1 to 4 scale. He has a book on this. I'm not going to go too much into it, but for our purposes, stress is on a 1 to 4 scale. So 1 would be like the weakest stress, 2 would be like semi-weak, 3 is semi-strong, and 4 is like the strongest stress a word or syllable can have. And like I said, so the examples I gave above, this is usually what people think of iambers, like a 1-4 beat. So I put numbers in front of them so now shaves with lev or wings, the deep then soars. You can kind of see like how it has a 1-4, 1-4, 1-4, 1-4, 1-4 beat to it. And what happens is a lot of people believe this is how all iambics are written, but that's not true, as we will look below at some of the examples I've picked out. So before we go on this, I just want to give you the correct terminology for when we talk about these highlighted beats. Really, it should be called accented or unaccented. An accented stress is a word or syllable the speaker, the poet, is emphasizing over other words and with other syllables within the same poetic foot. So that's really what we're talking about when we have the dumb beat. And unaccented would be words or syllables that the speaker isn't emphasizing when they speak. That's really what we're talking about. It's not that it's stressed or unstressed. It's just that it's accented or unaccented. So what does this mean, and how does it relate to iambic pentameter? So really, there are two things, and like I said, this is where I believe most people get into trouble when they're learning to read iambic pentameter, and when they're also trying to scan other people's iambic pentameter. And it's this: not all iambers are created equal. And the second thing this is what's accented in one poetic foot might not be accented in another poetic foot. Those are the two things that come into play with the 1 to 4 scale I just discussed that affects iambic pentameter. So let's look at the first one. Not all iambers are created equal. Like I said before, most people believe that iambers are like this 1-4 pattern. If waves could wash away my sins in life. Again, 1-4, 1-4, 1-4, 1-4, 1-4. However, in this next example, we're going to see that that's not quite the case. This line is taken from James J. Bond's Counting Our Losses. And the line is, by simple observation, first and then. So, let's just kind of start scanning this line. And we're going to take a look at where the accented stresses fall. So let's get the obvious ones. By sim, we'll break that apart. First is an easy one. So if we break that. So we're kind of starting to see the line form. But then we got this middle. And this is where some people might get into trouble. Now, I have seen this said a lot, and this is not true. What I have seen is that some people think you can only use a 1-syllable or 2-syllable word in iambic pentameter, and if it's more than 2 syllables, you can't use it. That's not correct. That's not true. I don't know where that came from. I've never seen any book that even says that, but there is a lot of people who believe that, and that is just not true. And we're going to look at observation, and I'm going to break this apart so that we can all kind of see what we're actually talking about. So, observation. We're breaking this apart. So, traditionally, the most powerful syllable in observation is the VA here. So I want to just use the 1 to 4 so we can just get what we have now. So this is a 1. This is a 4. This third foot would be a 1. 4. And then this right here is a pretty easy to see. 1 and 4. But this second foot right here, this right here is what's getting accented. But it's not a 1-4, it's a 1-2. So, put that right there. Make sure my face isn't covering this example. Okay, good. Oops. Okay. So, as we can see, by simple observation, this right here, the second foot, it's a 1-2. It doesn't have the same amount of stress as these other feet, but that's fine. The definition of an iambic is that the second word or syllable has more stress than the first. How much more stress is irrelevant. It does not matter. It just needs a little bit more. And then this last foot, some people might say this is a 4. Some might. Then is not a very impressive word. It's just not that. It's not like like a noun or a verb. It just doesn't have that hit to it. So I would also put this last foot as a 1-2 as well. So as you can see what I mean, not all the iambics in this line are equal. So you got, a 1-4, 1-2, 1-4, 1-4, and a 1-2. Highlight that. And this is what I mean by not all iambics are created equal. Now, let's take a look at another example. And this one is the opposite. And this particular line has been studied by a lot of people. And it's from John Milton's Paradise Lost. It's rocks, caves, lake fens, bogs, dens, and shades of death. This particular line, to anyone new to Iambic Pentameter, would look kind of scary to scan. Like, you would not really understand how this is Iambic Pentameter. But I'm going to show you how it is, and it's probably going to blow a few people's minds. This actually, John Milton was pretty genius when he wrote this line. I'm going to show you the tricks he used to make this Iambic Pentameter. So let's get the easy ones out of the way. In shades of death. So these 2 feet, pretty easy. We all can hear the beat. In shades of death. So let's just separate them from now. Okay. Now let's go to the first foot right here. Rocks, caves. Now, guys, I want you to ask yourself, what do you think is more impressive, a rock or a cave? Obviously, the cave is more grander. It's more massive than the rock. So that is why this particular foot takes the stress like this. So rock caves, because the cave is a much more impressive noun than a rock. There's also another reason. It's called demotion, but I want to get into that in a later lesson because I don't want to overload you guys too much right now. But I just want you to think of this particular aspect right now, that the rock caves, the cave is just a more impressive noun than a rock. It just makes sense logically. Now, these other 2 feet, I'm going to just break them apart. And I thought this was really genius of Milton, what he did here. If you look at where the accented stress would fall, fens, and dens, these two words rhyme with each other. So what he is doing is he is using internal rhyme to help create the iambic pentameter pattern. So, like fens, dens, he wants the accented stress to fall on these words so that the rhyme is more secured. So really, going back to the 1 to 4 scale, what we're really looking at is 3, 4, in terms of stress levels, 3, 4, 3, 4, and then this is the obvious 1/4 beat that everyone is usually expecting when they hear iambic pentameter. Oop. So we can see what I mean. Like, not all the iambers are created equal. We got these 1/4 iambers, and then we got these 3/4 iambers. So the last thing I want to touch on with how stress in English work is, like I said, what is accented in one poetic foot might not be in another poetic foot. And I want to use a couple lines from Theodore Lothick's The Waking. It's going to be line 1, line 4, and line 17. I'll just read them off. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. We think by feeling what is there to know. What falls away is always, end is near. So I just want to just scan this, and this is less important than not less important. This has little to do with the 1 to 4 scale, and I just want you to see something. So I'm just going to highlight the feet that are, highlight the words and syllables that take the accented stress. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. So you can see it's obviously iambic pentameter. Has that da-dum beat. And if we were to break all these apart, you would see they were all, 1/4 beats. So, and then this line right here, there's nothing really that sticks out. We think, I feel, what is there to know. Pretty iambic. We're not really, there's no strange, substitutions or variations. But now I want you to look at this. What falls, and this line really makes the point I'm trying to make. What falls away and is near. Now I'm going to show you guys some things. So the point I'm trying to make here is, look, what in this foot right here, what falls, the what is not accented. But if you look at this line right here that I'm highlighting, the what is accented following the ing ending. So you can see it's accented here, but it's not accented here. That's the same also with the word and. And is accented here, but it is not accented here. So this is what I mean by what I say, that just in one foot, a word or syllable might be accented, and in another, it might not be. So this is the other thing that sometimes catches people off guard. They think that, oh, this word's accented, so it has to be accented for the rest of the poem. But as I've just showed you, that's not the case. So just keep that in mind when you guys are writing, that just because a word appears accented in one place doesn't mean it's another. There was a poem I tried to find that did this with another word, and I just couldn't. I have it somewhere, but I just couldn't find the notes. But I know what the opening line is. It's night after night. So here, let me just write this down. I'll have to find the poem one of these days. I couldn't find it in my notes. Night. And it's kind of a genius because, like, in the first foot, you know, the after is taking the af, and the after is taking the accented stress. But then in the second foot, the night is. So that's kind of the thing you'll see. Some poets do this on purpose because they kind of, it's called metrical play, where they're like, you know, they're trying to do funny things like that, like have a word accented in one position and not in another. They'll do that on purpose sometimes. It's actually quite common. And but anyways, that's the point I'm trying to make, is what it means. So just to review, not all stress is no stress is absolute, meaning it's like I said, it's not like as I just showed, not like, you know, what is not absolutely stressed every time, and obviously and is not absolutely stressed every time. It's actually very rare for and to be stressed, but just how it's placed in this line, it is. Not all iambers are created equal. We can see, you know, the 1-4 iambers, which is what most people will think about when they think about iambic pentameter. But we also can see the 1-2s. You can see that here. And then you can see the 3-4s here. And that's pretty much it for what I have tonight, guys. Does anyone have any questions? See if anyone's got anything to ask. No, that looks like it's it. All right, so I hope this first episode, guys, is really helpful. I want to build on this each week. I want to build on what we just discussed, because this is fundamental. Like I said, every lesson I do after this is based off this principle that stress is relative, and that the 1-4 scale, and that what could be accented in one line might not be accented in another. The next week's episode is going to be on what exactly creates the rhythm. Like what words are you attempting to put in certain positions? There's actually there's 4 things that create rhythm in English. It's word importance, multisyllable, the primary stress on multisyllable words, promotion and demotion, which is actually the thing that very few people touch on. And the last is rhetorical stress. You've all heard this. It's another way of saying it's not what you say, but how you say it. That's what rhetorical stress is. It usually happens with questions. But that's going to do it for tonight, guys. I hope you found this informative. I've tried to keep these short, like 20 minutes, because I don't want people to get overloaded. But yeah, basically, if to give you a homework assignment, just kind of go read through go read Shakespeare if you got, because he's easy to look up. Just go read some things you know that are iambic, and just kind of look out in the lines and see if you can see what I mean by not all iambers being equal, and try to find words that are in accented spots in one position in the poem, but are not in another, and just kind of see if you can figure out what he's doing there. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thanks for coming by.